Hello, my name is Patrick Highsmith, and I'm an economic geologist with more than 30 years experience in the mining industry. I'm also a director of Golden Globe Resources. We thought we would take this opportunity to walk you through our results so far on the Dooloo Creek project, to give you some context for the results, and also to share our encouragement and optimism about the future potential of the project. What excited me most when I was first approached to be an advisor to Golden Globe Resources, coming up on 2 years ago now, was that Dooloo Creek lies in the Devonian volcanic arc of Queensland. Now, the Devonian aged rocks around the world are some of the most prospective there are for gold and copper. It's just a really rich time period in geologic history. So anytime we're exploring in the Devonian rocks, we might be excited. But here in Queensland, it's even more important because the real prize would be the discovery of another deposit like the Mount Morgan mine. Now, Mount Morgan occurs in this Devonian volcanic arc. It was a rich producer, producing over 8 million ounces of gold in its history and 360,000 tons of copper. The grades were also quite rich, averaging almost 5 grams per ton, or 4.75 grams per ton gold, and 0.72% copper. Geologically, it's a little unusual. I've referred to it as a hybrid type deposit. It has elements of volcanogenic massive sulfides and elements of epithermal systems. Nevertheless, it's a rich deposit and clearly something we'd like to find another one analogous to. Now, this part of Queensland is also host to younger Permian Triassic aged porphyry copper type systems. These in this part of the world are often considered to be sub-economic and probably less attractive as a target. Dooloo has both these Devonian volcanics and evidence of the potentially younger Permo-Triassic rocks as well. There are various complex structures ripping through here, and we can see what may be the influence of porphyry copper type systems that would cross-cut earlier Devonian mineralization if it was present. Now, our focus has been on higher grade styles of mineralization that could be really impactful, but a porphyry or intrusion-related deposit could also be substantive and material to accompany the size of Golden Globe. So we've gotten a lot of work done in about 18 months or so, and of course, all of this has been done during the pandemic, so creating even bigger challenges. As you'll remember, we weren't even able to move people across the state lines for some of this time. So, for instance, we had a geologist in Western Australia that we could mobilize to the project, but we weren't able to cross the state lines. So we've contracted with a group called Nomic Exploration Services in Queensland, and a geologist named Chris Galgan has been leading our efforts so far, working through Nomic. So we're thankful to have built that relationship and been able to get so much work done during this challenging period of time. Now, Chris and his team have been doing reconnaissance geologic mapping and sampling over much of the property, generating about 200 rock samples. We also, in some areas, focused in a little bit more with soil sampling. There, we've collected over 500 soil samples. We'll talk about some of those results. We've done a lot of geophysics of different types. We've done detailed magnetics, ground magnetics, which we'll be looking at some of that data. And we've applied electrical geophysics, such as induced polarization or IP geophysics. We've also gotten a good bit of drilling done in our first phase, about 1,840 meters of reverse circulation drilling in 8 holes and 3 core holes totaling almost 1,100 meters of diamond core. In some of those holes, we've even employed downhole electromagnetics to look for conductors and electrical anomalies that might be nearby that drill hole that we might not have penetrated with the hole directly. So the results of the drilling have actually been pretty impressive, given that it's the first pass of work. We've had a couple of intercepts of substance that were higher grade, 2 meters at 3.9 grams per ton gold in the Silver Plain area, and 3 meters of 2.3 grams per ton in the Eastern Breccia target. Now, most important to me is we found anomalous gold and copper in all 11 drill holes. This is great. Many of the drill holes we do in early stages of exploration do not intercept significant copper and gold at all. So this is very encouraging. And in some cases, we've drilled through thick sequences of altered rocks that were anomalous over much of that thickness, up to almost 50 meters. So while this stage of exploration is early, these are some very encouraging drill results for early work like this. Now, in order to show you a few maps and an overview, I want to start with a little bit of big picture. And maybe first we'll look on the left here where we've zoomed in on this warm color pattern here, which are magnetics. So this is airborne magnetics data that dates back to the 1990s from previous explorers. And we've done some interpretation on top of this and a couple of things that come out. There are big northeasterly trending linear patterns here. You see some of these interpretations. And in some cases where they have gotten, we see some anomalous sampling or prospect names on the top of them, a circle here around the Base Station Hill prospect. So these big northeasterly faults or cracks and crevices in the earth are probably important for moving fluids around, but we also see the magnetic feature is cut up with these northwesterly trending structures that you can see here. Hard to say for sure, but it looks like some of these northwesterly structures are a little bit older and the northeasterly structures a little bit younger. But nevertheless, this is the interpretation we employ with magnetics data. Using magnetics will not directly detect gold or copper mineralization, but when you combine it with things like the IP geophysics you see here with the red hatched lines, we start to see highly magnetic rocks cut by IP chargeability anomalies. Maybe that's telling us about the presence of sulfide mineralization, and that's why some of the historic work is focused in this area. Outlined here in sort of the pink color is a rough outline within the tenement area of anomalous gold and copper related to previous sampling. So you can see we focused in on this area within the tenement boundary here, and this has been a lot of the places where we basically picked up from the work done by others to give us a bit of a head start on our work. Now on the right side, we've pulled back a little bit to show you a more processed version of this magnetics image. Again, the warmer colors are magnetic rocks, and we've superimposed on that the gold in rock chip data. This is all the historic data. And of course, the warmer colors up through the pink are high-grade gold. You can see there's anomalous gold over a large area. Here's a 1 kilometer scale bar. All through this area at Base Station Hill and the Eastern Breccia and this area through here, we have highly anomalous gold. But the highest gold values are here in the true blue to silver plain area, where we have 20 to 55 grams per ton, and some isolated high values from the Rawlings and Dazzler prospects that date back to the 1980s or 1990s. So in the heart of this magnetic block of volcanic rocks, we see a lot of faulting and evidence of structure, some geophysical anomalies in this area through here, electrical geophysics, and of course, the rocks are telling us there's gold and copper over a large area. Now we get to another map here where we look at the prospects and some of our favorite target areas that we're going to be focusing on in 2022. You can see on the right, we've added our detailed magnetics over the top of the regional magnetics data. And on this, we've interpreted a number of features. You can see these northeasterly structures and some northwesterly areas too that we're starting to focus on. These pink stippled outlines are intrusive rocks that seem to occur in a northwest striking corridor here, related to this big diorite intrusive up here to the northwest of the property. So these are the various corridors that we're prospecting, and it also shows where some of our drill results have occurred here on the eastern side at Base Station Hill and the Eastern Breccia, down through Bendy Hill and the Dooloo diggings area, and then across at Silver Plain, where we also did some reverse circulation drilling. On this map, we've highlighted the prospects that we're going to return to and focus on this year, where we see the best potential. First, there's this huge banana-shaped anomaly here. It's 1.5 kilometers long. It includes anomalous gold and copper at True Blue, east and west, Silver Plain, and around to the edge of this intrusion that's been mapped there. We also have a large soil anomaly that we've begun to develop through the Silver Plain, True Blue area, and it's coincident with the large geophysical anomaly here. Appears to be an area where the magnetics is reverse polarized, which might mean alteration or an intrusive body there. So this is one of our prime target areas. This entire structural corridor is interesting to us, but particularly where it intersects with this area here, where there's a jog in this older northeasterly structure. It's been offset a little bit, and we have anomalies in that area in the vicinity of Bendy Hill and the Deep Beef Scarn area. Here to the east, of course, where we had some drill success at the eastern breccia, we've certainly highlighted that and the northern gold anomaly as areas for additional follow-up. So these are the prospects. You'll be hearing those names. You'll be seeing us producing follow-up work, more soil sampling, a bit more geophysics, and definitely more drilling. Now, being a geochemist, I get excited to look at the multi-element chemistry, not just gold and copper, of these rocks and these soils. So here we're showing you a gold map. The triangles are older data. That's pre-GGR, and the circles are the data that we've collected. So you can see the hot spot over here in the true blue to silver plain area. You can also see a number of widespread anomalies along the main trend here from Bay Station Hill down through Bendy Hill, and then the isolated high-grade values of these Dazzler and the Dazzler prospect here and the other one to the southwest here. So more isolated work. You can see the treks of our geologists, a lot of how the property they've covered with their GPS tracks there. So the geochemistry here is telling us a lot. It's not just widespread gold and copper anomalies, but we also have anomalous zinc and lead and bismuth and arsenic and tellurium and other elements. I'm just going to show you a few examples in addition to the high-grade gold that we've already talked about. Now, copper is a bit more scattered at silver plain, and true blue is a bit more scattered, but highly elevated at silver plain and true blue, as well as the historic sampling over at Deep Beef Skarn and the chalcopyrite zone. So here we're looking at copper, and we see some isolated anomalies over here. The very high copper we see at true blue and silver plain, and then in the Deep Beef Skarn and chalcopyrite zone, again, lots of these red to purple copper values up to a 5% copper in outcrop. So quite high grade of copper in outcrop, and a large area of weaker anomalies down with these yellow to orange colored circles. Zinc now shows us a little bit different story. Right through the area where the most high-grade gold and copper is, zinc is actually relatively low. There's a few spikes on the flanks of that area. Similarly, here on the east, we see some high zinc here, but it's often not connected to the highest copper or the gold. And the reason for that is the temperatures will drive the zonation of these metals. So gold, copper, bismuth, tellurium, those might be in the heart of the system, the higher temperature areas, and elements like zinc would tend to move further away and represent the distal or the halos around some of those areas of interest. So we've got a beautiful database showing us a lot of gold and copper, and these multi-element data are giving us some insights into the scale of the system. And maybe, given that each of these is a 500-meter block here, we're talking about a scale of 3 kilometers from the anomalies here at the eastern breccia over to silver plain and the intrusion-related mineralization here. So if we see the distribution of these elements over that distance, it could mean that there's a very large-scale mineralizing system here that has moved these elements over a great distance. Now, we'd prefer to find some high grade with that, so we're really encouraged to see the high copper and gold in the silver plain and true blue area, down here at Dazzler and Rawlings to the southwest, and of course, along the Bendy Hill to Deep Beef Skarn area here where there's more high grade as well. So the results are really coming together, and I think one of the big takeaways is scale. There's a lot of geochemistry and geophysical anomalies over a large area. So in summary, what have we done in the first 18 months? I think we've confirmed the presence of a significant gold and copper in these Devonian rocks. And the first pass drilling confirmed that. We have large areas of low grade and a couple of narrow, relatively high grade drill intercepts. Large scale rock sampling and robust scale anomalies in the soil sampling are showing us that these features have some scale and extent to them. Now, targets have emerged that warrant follow-up soil sampling, mapping, rock sampling, and possibly geophysics. And these are the prospects you'll be hearing the name and seeing more follow-up work as we get ready for more drilling later in the year. We will also be proceeding in the meantime with a bit more structural work and interpretation to sort of figure out the importance of these faults, and maybe some of them can clue us in on the Devonian mineralization and differentiate it from the younger Permo-Triassic mineralization. We will be drilling during 2022, probably late in Q2 or Q3, and our preliminary list of targets that we'll be talking most about are the True Blue Silver Plain corridor, the structural and intrusive targets near Bendy Hill, that little jog and that big structure, the eastern breccia on the far east of the district, And the northern gold, that higher grade gold showing north of a lot of the activity here. Don't forget, it's a great thing to see scale. When we see these anomalies over large areas, perhaps related to zonation around a porphyry copper type system, or maybe a reduced intrusion related deposit, or maybe it's a volcanic hosted system like a Mount Morgan. The scale is what we want to see. And given the grades we're experiencing at Dooloo Creek, we're very encouraged with this early stage of work. We hope this was helpful and that you enjoyed this overview. And please don't hesitate to contact us if you have any more questions. Thank you very much.